We'll Argo.
Joseph, what are you doing?
Can't you tell? I'm practicing Maliss.
That's Celestrals.
If you're practicing Maliss by playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, you're behind.
Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. Well, the results are in, and you all hate watching TMTs about good decks in the current TCG format. Too bad. I'm gonna grab you kicking and screaming into a minimum level of comprehension about the current metagame. And that continues with this week's deck, Maliss.
A very, very good day.
To me?
To you.
So here's the list. This is the Aditya list without A code, but keep in mind that's a thing you can play. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is a one-stop shop for all things Yu-Gi-Oh! They're responsible for the pack opener that makes series like Progression possible. They've got strategy articles for those looking to flesh out their fundamentals. They're the most complete repository of deck lists and results from regionals and YCSs online, and they've also got cube and draft infrastructure that's finally seeing use now that Yu-Gi-Oh! Players have come to the light of Limited. There's a good chance that any Yu-Gi-Oh! Content you see on YouTube has Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck's many tendrils somewhere within its DNA. So why not go to the source and improve your game, draft with friends, or just see what 11-year-olds are playing in their Blue Eyes decks this month? Head on over to YGOPRODECK.com. Now back to the video. So with that, let's mess with Maliss. Maliss is a truly inspired series of cards. They're a combination of malware alongside characters from Alice in Wonderland. And in true Yu-Gi-Oh! Fashion, they're also sexy ladies. They've been comfortably a top deck since release, but really came into their own after Alin's debut. See, one of Maliss's big weaknesses was, like Snake Eyes, a well-timed impermanence necessitated an extender to keep playing, and they just didn't really have any. I mean, sure, sometimes you could hard draw a TB11 or the field spell. I guess if you squint, the Bestials work, but outside of that, there wasn't much to be done. In ALIN, however, they got a slew of new, incomprehensible options. The Adignister generic cyber support is a perfect way to keep playing through spot negation, Maliss in the Mirror is an integral piece of interaction, and, oh god, March Hare. March Hare is the missing Maliss extender. It can banish a Maliss from the field or graveyard to special summon itself. But it's also an integral piece of an end board, as its special is quick. In this way, it serves a similar function to GWC, with some players cutting that trap card altogether as a result. The end result is a pile of cyber slop that can combo through just about anything, and by foregoing the very few light monsters in the strategy, you can also play the premier format hand trap, Dominus Impulse. Scary shit! So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up, Dormouse, White Rabbit, and Chessy Cat, all at the maximum amount of copies you are allowed under the current ban list. 3 copies of March Hare, which prevents Maliss link monsters that point to this card from being targeted by your opponent's card effects, and, as hard onces during the main phase, if in your hand you can banish a Maliss from your hand to graveyard, special summon this card, and if this card is banished, you can pay 300 to target a banished Maliss monster and add it to your hand. Importantly, does not say except March Hare, which is cool. We've got 3 copies of backup Adignister. If you control a Cyberse monster special from the extra deck, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if special summoned, you can add a Dark Cyberse monster from your deck to your hand, except herself, then discard a card. Of course, you can get any of the Maliss cards, but you can also get Wizard Adignister, which, if you control a Cyberse monster special from the extra deck, can target a Dark Cyberse monster in your graveyard, special both this card from your hand and that monster in defense position, and you can special summon for the rest of the turn, except Cyberse monsters. You can banish this card from your field to graveyard to target a monster your opponent controls, change its battle position, which does come up, hilariously. We're on 2 copies of the field spell because it was semi-limited as well. 1 copy of Maliss in the Mirror, which allows you to target a face-up monster your opponent controls, banish a Maliss from your hand to face-up field, and if you do, negate the targeted monster's effects. Then if this card is banished, you can target a Maliss card in your graveyard, banish it, and if you do, add a Maliss of the same type from your deck to your hand. We're playing 1 copy of I Meet You alongside a Terraforming and a Gold Sarcophagus. For the 2 traps, we are still on GWC and MTP07. I shouldn't have to say that if you're still on TB11, you're behind. We've got a Magnamon and a Druisworm, 3 copies of Nibiru, 3 copies of Ash Blossom, 5 Mulcharmies, double Fulos, and triple Perulia, triple Infinite Impermanence, and god, this card has become so scary so quickly, 3 Dominus Impulse. In the extra, space is extremely tight. We've got Haggard Lizardos, SP Little Knight, Dark, Access Code Talker, Double Lingaribo, a card that I think might be banned shortly. I mean, this guy has gotten really good really quickly. Salman, Great Almirage, Link Spider, Firewall Dragon, Topologic Bomber Dragon, Splash Mage, Cypress Wicked, Whitebinder, Red Ransom, and Heart's Cryptor in the side. We've got the additional Wizard Adignister, triple Artifact Lancia, triple Droll and Lockbird, 2 Phantasme, 2 Meowls, a Called by the Grave, the other I Meets Use, and a triple Tactics Talent. So with that, let's hop into the games. Our first match is up against Azamina White Forest, and honestly, every time I play against this deck, I'm astounded by just what it can do. It spins its wheels for about 40 minutes and takes about 35,000 actions in that time, but every time I sit across the table, I feel like it's just missing something. For this game, of course, we're going first, and though our opponent has 2 pieces of non-engine, we have a check for 1, and an Ash Blossom isn't going to be sufficient to stop us from setting up. So here's what the deck does, functionally uninterrupted. We're going to begin with a Maliss and Underground, and then activate the effect of the Dormouse in Banish in order to go ahead and summon it to our side of the field. Dormouse effect on field will get us a White Rabbit, and the White Rabbit effect on field will, of course, allow us to set a copy of GWC. From here, we're going to go into a Wicked, and then use the effect of the March Hare to banish the copy of a White Rabbit. We'll trigger the effect of the Wicked. They will Ash Blossom. No big deal, because now we can go Red Ransom. Red Ransom effect is going to grab us another copy of Maliss and Underground. Then we're going to MTP that bad boy away in order to grab a March Hare, and Red Ransom effect in order to summon itself back and banish a copy of Chessie. We'll go Chessie effect to summon itself to our side of the field, and we'll activate the on-field effect of the Chessie to send this copy of Malice and Underground and grab a couple of cards. Next up, Splash Mage. We'll use it to bring back this copy of Chessie to go into a White Binder effect in order to reset this copy of MTP, normal summon that Perulia, make a Topologic Bomber Dragon, set 1 and pass. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Sylvie ripped off the top. They're going to go for the effect of Sylvie, and then afterwards they're going to fire off a Tales of the White Forest. Next, they're going to go ahead and summon this copy of Elzette, and that's a pretty good time to fire off the Topologic Bomber Dragon, I think. We'll go GWC here in order to grab our copy of White Binder to a link point of the Topologic Bomber Dragon as they reset their copy of Sinful Spoils of the White Forest. We'll blow up the board as they go for a Deception. We'll go for March Hare here. March Hare allows us to banish this copy of White Binder, and hey, what do you know? White Binder triggers. That's going to allow us to summon back the White Binder, and then afterwards they're going to go for a Hallowed Azamina, revealing Saint Azamina, sending 2, and then activating the effect, which we can hilariously Dominus Impulse. That'll go to the graveyard. They'll use Hallowed Azamina to cycle it back to the hand, then set Witches of the White Forest, which falls to our Malice C MTP-07. Get that off the field. They're going to pass turn here, activate the effect of the Deception at end phase, and should just be a hop, skip, and a jump to lethal from this position. We're going to go ahead and link off for a Heart's Cryptor. We'll activate the effect of the Druid Swarm, targeting our MT White Binder, and then use the White Binder effect to summon it to our side of the field. Activate its effect to banish this copy of GWC and the Red Ransom, so we can summon back the Red Ransom and the March Hare, getting back the Dormouse as well. Just unbelievable recursion on this strategy as we go to the battle phase and hit for 23, 23, 25, and 25. So that's how the deck performs on the play, but what does it do on the draw? Well, we're going to find out in Game 2 because our opponent's playing Labyrinth, a strategy that's gotten a lot more play recently due to its recent Premier level finish. We've opened a Perulia, which is going to do hot nothing, but our opponent's going to go for a copy of Stovey Torby, sending a transaction rollback, Scary, to set both Lab Traps, go for Lab, and pass back to us. We draw for turn, and this is a pretty good hand. We're going to begin with a copy of Gold Sarcophagus in order to banish a Dormouse. Dormouse comes to our side of the field, and unfortunately its effect is an Ignition. So they're going to go for a Welcome Lab. We're going to fire off an Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, but then they can go for the transaction rollback in Graveyard, paying half-life to target it, and summon out an Ariana, where they are going to trigger the Ariana in order to grab a copy of Lady Lab. Then they're going to summon the Lady Lab, then activate the big Welcome Labyrinth and the Lady Lab in sequence to get a DDKC and a Coup Clock to grip. Because they have an inherited effect off of that Labyrinth, they're going to pop our Dormouse, at which point we can activate Malice and Underground to grab a copy of White Rabbit. White Rabbit here will summon to our side of the field. We'll activate the on-summon in order to set a copy of MTP-07. Then we're going to make Lingeribo, a card that checks the remainder of our opponent's interaction. We'll go for the Chessie Cat here, activate the MTP-07, cycle back the Chessie Cat, and use its effect cycling the March Hare, which will just add itself back to hand to draw a couple of cards. March Hare here is going to banish the MTP-07, so we can go into a Splash Mage. Splash Mage effect, bring back this copy of White Rabbit, and from here we can make a copy of White Binder. We're going to banish everything from our opponent's graveyard, which is just debilitating. Then we'll activate the effect of the White Binder to set a GWC-06, which we will then fire in order to summon back the Chessie Cat. White Binder effect here, we're going to summon it back to our side of the field, and then afterwards we can, spike that I Meet You, revealing access code Talker to get a copy of Backup. Backup here, we'll summon to our side of the field, we'll activate the effect of the Backup in order to grab the Wizard. We will pitch this copy of Imperm. They will go for the Coup Clock. We will go for the Wizard in order to summon back this White Rabbit and make a copy of Heart's Cryptor. Heart's Cryptor is going to target this MTP-07. Down comes the DDKC. We'll activate Lingeribo to check it, and afterwards we're going to go ahead and get rid of this Lab. They are going to summon back the Coup Clock, but we can access code Talker, and from this position we can banish this copy of Heart's Cryptor to cycle it back to our side of the field, and use the graveyard effect of our Wizard to switch the Coup Clock to attack, getting in for lethal in one shot. So it's time for Game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our grip is insane. I really can't overstate how good it is. We've got a Magnamut, we've got a Nibiru, we've got a Dominus Impulse. Of course, 2 of those conflict. We'll just have to be clever with sequencing. Our opponent has not as great a grip. You can see the Saji and the Node, which are not the 2 you want to start with, but do get the job done. They're going to begin with the effect of the Saji. Saji's going to go ahead and get them access to both Prayers and Ritual. They're going to begin with a copy of Prayers to get a Habakiri. Then they will activate the effect of the Habakiri in order to get an Aramasa. Aramasa to the yard, and then activate the effect of the Aramasa. Okay, we've got both Rituals. Now let's fire off the Mitsurugi Ritual into a Dominus Impulse. Yep, as bad as it gets. They're going to set 1 card, and that's why this is the boogeyman of the format. We draw another one off the top. We're going to begin with a copy of White Rabbit. They're going to Imperm. No big deal, though that would have been a really scary thing last format. Here we can link off for a Lingeribo and then use the March Hare to banish it, summoning the White Rabbit back to our side of the field, at which point our opponent says, let's not waste any more time. So it's time for game 2, and alright, a better grip out of our opponent. They're going to begin with a copy of Ice Ryziel to summon an Ext from deck. Afterwards, going to activate the effect of the Ext in order to grab a sword from deck to hand, and at this point, they're going to overlay for a copy of King of the Feral Imps. He has made it onto the board. They're going to grab a Habakiri, whose effect they will activate in order to cycle through a Saji. They already have this copy of Mitsurugi Prayer, so they're going to go ahead and grab the ritual here, and then afterwards, they're going to fire the ritual, and it worked so well last time, let's fire off the Dominus Impulse again. Unfortunately, our opponent has extension. They're going to go Prayers. We will go for the Druis Worm in order to get this copy of Kusanagi out of the graveyard before it can trigger, but they are going to be able to bring back the Saji and then special out the Sword Ryziel. That's going to grab them a copy of Star Ryziel, which they will actually summon, setting this cross before activating the cross so that their Duo Drive is going to be very protected. They're going to equip from the Duo Drive, then activate the Duo Drive effect for 2, grabbing 2, and then summoning out the Ext Ryziel by sending an Exciton Knight. Down comes Dugaris. They'll draw 2, discard 1. So good, after they've already exhausted so much of their deck, into a hard-made Eclipse Twins into Node, triggering the effect of the Eclipse Twins in order to bring back this copy of King of the Feral Imps, who is not a hard once per turn. They're going to activate its effect, then activate Cross in order to draw. Then afterwards, they can still overlay for a Detonator, equipping this Eclipse Twins underneath it. They'll set 2 and pass back to us, and this is going to be rough. We'll begin with the Chessy Cat into a Lingaribo. We'll activate backup at Ignister. They'll activate Ryziel Detonator, then negate the backup at Resolution with Cross. Let's scoop it up. So it's time for that all-important game 3, and man, I mean, what do you want? There it is. 3 trap cards, 2 Ash Blossoms into a hand that would have beaten most of our opens regardless. All right, let's just go ahead and set 3 and hope for the best. Our opponent's going to draw for turn, and as we know, they already have several starters. They'll begin with this copy of Ext Ryziel, sending Baguska. We will imperm this, hoping that it ends the turn, but of course it's not going to. Down comes Ice Ryziel. They'll activate the effect. I guess that's worth a Dominus Impulse, cuts them off of a material on field, but the Sword Ryziel is enough. They'll go ahead and grab another Ice and then go for Detonator, activate the Detonator effect, and in a simplified board state, you just really don't want to be here. They'll get in, set 1 card, and pass. We'll go MTP07 at end step to grab a Dormouse and hope that's going to do it. Druis Worm's good. We're going to normal summon the Dormouse. We'll activate the Dormouse. They're going to Detonator. No big deal, but the Lancia afterwards. Okay, we have to chain the Druis Worm here, but that still doesn't resolve the outstanding problem. We get rid of the Detonator, but we know they have an Ice in hand. That Ash is going to have to work wonders. They'll draw for turn. It is a Sword. Any extender would have done it, of course, and even no extender would have done it if they'd whiffed a draw phase, but I don't know. Let's special out the Sword, activate the Sword, and we'll just scoop them up. So we're back with the deck, and don't let that game deceive you. This is a top, if not the top, strategy. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, the new Maliss cards are bonkers. Maliss in the Mirror is unbelievable interaction and follow-up. March Hare gives you avenues of play through Interruption, resummons for procking something like Bomber Dragon. The Adignisters are a huge boon. Backup Search is another extender, or any main deck Maliss on summons. You can get access to Maliss names even if you just open a hand trap and backup. This gives you a huge amount of consistency and extension, letting the deck make plays even through Lancia by simply swarming bodies. 2, your interaction is layered. With GWC, March Hare, and MTP, you now have a ton of ways to banish and resummon your Maliss cards, and by using Bomber Dragon, you can get 3 to 4 board wipes alongside back row negates and Whitebinder and Cryptor interruptions. And 3, build variety. While this version is focused on Bomber Dragon, Accode also provides a huge board with a negate and multiple Maliss monsters on board for MTP and GWC. And the cons. 1, it's still really easy to side against. Chaos Hunter and Lancia are extremely targeted pieces of hate for the deck, which definitely limit your ability to play. While you can play through it sometimes, having the main mechanic of your deck shut off completely in 2/3 of your games means the deck has a lot of chances to open dead when Lancia is active. 2, the other struggle the deck has is going second. Going second into other Maliss decks or Mitsu Ryziel is often a death sentence unless you've seen multiple hand traps or targeted pieces of hate. The engine of the deck actually kind of struggles to play into an established board, much more so than it does into hand traps. And 3, it's hard as fuck. I honestly get the spreadsheets. This is one of the most challenging decks in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. Overall, the deck only got better, and while it still might not be the best deck due to its 2 glaring weaknesses, it's going to be a huge part of the meta regardless for the whole format. So that's that. Thanks so much for watching. These 10-minute testings are made possible by, and occasionally suggested by, my patrons, some of whom have paid a fair amount of money to be mentioned at the end of the episode. Here they are: Elena Tincher, Alex Perea, Allison Elliott, Ally, Anthony S. Sierri, APK, Burly Tier 0, Brett Henry, Cameron Noer, Cool Name, Damon O'Neill, Dark Rebel XYZ, Durban Dragon, DJ Elefante, Emiliano Deverio, Envy Adams, Fabrizio Petroli, FPS Lord Derp, Garrett Ran, Hergalicious, Knight Mary, Legal Rights, Luis Hernandez, Lullaby of Souls, Matthew M. Derezzo, MBT Play Madolce, Mike Carlotti, N54 Lionheart, Nacho Gonzalez, Pombo, Project Mercury, Raymond GGEZ, Rohan Doge, Rose Lapine, Serpentax, Shelby Piet, Shifter.mp8, Sly Ninja 43, Soul CLG, Troy Says By Erasure is Gay, Who's Nick, Wonder Waffle, and Yuki Kazami. Couldn't have done it without you.